Welcome to the Fit Dance Podcast. My name's Ryan Dutton. I'm joined by the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Bradley Thompson.
It's very kind, yeah. Over-egged, but it's kind.
We are going to be talking about some of your Q&A questions today, discussing things that you guys have been struggling with. We put a little thing on our story this week, didn't we, about highlighting issues that you guys have got on the top of your dome, things you want to, propose to us, have answers to. So we're going to go for a list of, 5, 6, 7 questions we've got here. Massive range of stuff. Some quite deep questions today as well, mate.
Some deep ones. Sorry, mate, just to lower the tone a little bit, I've just noticed when you said the word dome, I love absolute, the mankness.
Dome.
When you said dome.
Was it dome?
Dome.
All right, mate.
Yeah.
Dome.
I love it.
Off the top of the dome,
Occasionally
mate.
you say words and it just makes me happy. Makes me want to listen to Oasis.
Too, man. I'm trying to get rid of that part of my accent.
No, don't, mate. Keep it. Keep it. It's endearing.
So, look, let's get into it today. But before we do, how's your week been, mate? Anything been going on?
All sorts. I feel like last time we've done this sort of intro, it's been Christmas.
Yeah.
So things have been fun. Ted's had a really good one. He didn't ask for much. I might have said this before, like in his last sort of intro. He's not really asked for much. All he really wanted was a monster truck, and that's about it. And I'm like,
loves his monster trucks. Car man, isn't he?
Loves it. I'm like, that's like 12 quid. So me and Amy decided to get him this massive, 5 metre long track.
Nice.
It's insane. It's got like a little suction cup, and he's doing it down the stairs, and
Kids
can make
dream,
little loops in it. My dream, mate. I love having a son. This is so
It's
good.
for you.
Yeah, honestly, it's been amazing. And just some funny comments from Ted, man. Like, he's been saying some really good stuff. We were watching World's Strongest Man over Christmas. So he's asking, like, do you think I could do that? How heavy's that? And he saw the keg toss. So he went outside and he's got this little bucket and he's just launching it over his head.
Mega.
So it's been really cool to see that. But yeah, just some of the funny comments that he's been doing. I've got one quick one that he said to Amy, which were harsh. I'm going to say it's toxic masculinity.
From a 4-year-old.
From a 4-year-old. Very, very protective of his mum.
Okay.
So Amy's getting ready to go to the gym. She's all ready, dressed to go. Ted's like, are you going to the gym, mummy? I said, yes, darling. Well, why? What's the matter? He went, good, because if you want a flat tummy like mine, you got to work
Wow.
Just lifts his
Love
top up.
that. Where's he learned that from?
I don't know. And
That's
I'm like,
interesting. He obviously knows that a flat tummy is something that people want and they desire.
yeah.
That's fascinating.
But he's realised that he can now properly do sit-ups, which no influence of mine. I do this thing where most lads do with their sons, pick him up by his feet. And before he just dangle like a lead weight. But now he's realised he can sit up. So I've got him and he sat up and just tapped me in my face. Wow. And I'm like, how have you learned to do that?
That's interesting.
It was really impressive.
It's like a vertical sit-up, isn't it?
Yeah.
You get boxers doing it off the side of boxing rings sometimes. Really hard to do, actually.
Really hard. So we did a
Difficult.
set of 50 and we moved on.
50, bloody. Did you do that? Okay.
No,
I was going to say, you're training him hard, isn't it? He's like, I'm training hard.
Wrote him his programme for next week. But no, mate. What about you? How's your week been?
It's been all right. I've got a confession to make this week.
Go on.
I spat on someone at the gym.
Were you spotting him?
No. Oh. Worse. It's worse.
How can it be worse than that? I'm thinking you're spotting him and you just have a little...
That's how you think, and I've heard some stories about that, but this was different. I was on the cable machine, doing some cable flies, facing away from obviously the cable machine.
Okay.
And I'm giving it some beans, I'm got a little bit of grunting in there. I'm trying to get a good 15, 20 reps out here.
All right.
And I can just see there's little bits of spit coming up, and then one just fires projectiles, and I just had no control over it, straight across the room. And opposite the cable machine upstairs, if you know, is the seated leg extension. And it's quite close, that distance, isn't it? You know, when you get to take a few steps forwards.
With arms like yours as well, mate, you're going to be...
Yeah.
You've got long arms, haven't you?
So basically, I spat on someone, and it was that weird, awkward moment where I saw it go. It hit him, and he didn't move. He
his head?
It hit him, yeah. It hit him on the side of the head, just above his ear. And he kind of went back a little bit, so I knew he felt it, but he didn't look. He just kind of his eyes widened. And I thought, oh God, he's either going to look and go, what the fuck are you doing, or just style it out. Fortunately, he styled it out, but I felt so bad.
Yeah, that's pretty bad. That's
the first time I spat on anyone, I think.
Is it?
Yeah.
That shocks me, that.
Unintentional.
Unintentional, that's fair. No, it's... oh, man, that's grim. I thought you were going to say you were spotting someone on a bench, because I've done this before, where with a client and they'll mess around, they'll joke around with it after, but they're pressing, they'll a little bit of spit will leave their mouth, or sometimes I'll speak, and sometimes it's
it's a very close quarters exercising a bench press when you're spotting someone.
Try and avoid saying the letter S. Yeah.
Up or push.
Push. Yeah, push is a bad one.
When you're actually trying to get someone to push.
5 more. 4 more. It's like really,
yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of exercise, but
Yeah.
very salivary exercise.
Oh,
but
mate.
yeah, not my proudest moment, mate, but
that's great.
Yeah, I thought I'd share it on the podcast.
Fair. I mean, sorry to that person who you spat outside of the dome.
I don't know. I didn't even want to say I didn't want to highlight it. I didn't want to bring attention to it and go, I'm sorry, mate. I just spat on you a second ago. I'm sorry about that.
Sorry, can I get some disinfectant for that? Sorry about that.
It's baby wipes, mate. I didn't want to bring attention to it.
Have you ever been spat on at football? Like when you're playing?
What, intentionally? No, actually.
It happened to my mate. And
someone just gobbing off and thought,
yeah, just on his boot. Just grabbed on his boot.
That's minging that.
And he said, I'd rather be punched.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of lads feel like that. They'd rather just take a punch than be
What do you
spat
do
at.
when someone spits at you? What do you do? Like, it's not if you now hit them, it's so many levels above the spit, isn't it? But the spit's a real like it's a bitch move, I think, isn't it?
Blow a raspberry at them. Like you spit once, I'll just yeah, that's about the same level, isn't it? But,
just proper go like comedic.
oh god.
Yeah, you can't just start swinging after a spit. It's an awkward position for a bloke to be in, isn't it? After having been spat on intentionally.
That's true.
Because if you spit back, you almost are now in this spitting match where you keep spitting each other.
Just swilling each other.
Yeah, there was a really funny video from like India or China from like ages ago. It was just 2 guys who were having a bit of an altercation and they were just having a spitting match. Just kept spitting back and forth, and I thought,
wow,
that is the epitome of just bitch behaviour.
Yeah.
Just someone swing a punch for God's sake,
or a slap. I'd rather be slapped.
Just take him down, get him in a rear naked choke or something manly.
Pull his hair. That's better than
sitting there and spitting each other.
Oh god, mate, that's poor behaviour. But
once again, we've lowered the tone, mate, as we always do.
We have, mate. Did you want me to? I'm going to say transition then, because I told you there were a story about a Facebook group that I'm in.
Go on. What's this?
So one of my roles for the podcast is just trying to spread the message. So I've joined a few podcast groups and, sharing podcaster to podcaster. And a comment went out in the group sort of saying, listen, I'm looking for a health and fitness expert to come on and talk. I'm like, oh, me and my co-host could be interested. Give us some more information. Within 2 messages, this guy had offered to fly us both out to Chicago.
Well,
and said, I only like fit people on camera. You 2 are perfect. So I blocked him immediately.
What's his number, mate? I'm going to ring him.
We're going to Chicago next week, Ryan.
I'm going to Chicago, brother. You don't come in? No,
you're welcome to him, mate.
I'll take the reins in this
You're
one.
welcome to him. But do you think, I don't know you. That's 2 messages, read the room.
Yeah, going straight in with I like fit blokes on the podcast is a little bit.
Yeah, I'll fly you out to Chicago. He did admit that he's coming to Manchester for a concert though, so I've told him you're from Manchester and I've given your home address if that's all right.
Perfect.
But I like, nah, I'm not having this. So block, boom.
Yeah, that's weird on like a podcasting Facebook group, isn't it? You wouldn't expect it on there.
No, do you know what I felt for actually? I feel for people who get messages like that all the time, because that really worried me. Because I'm like, if you were like around the corner from me, I'd be a bit worried.
You get sometimes it's a bit like, obviously I'm from Manchester, big gay scene in Manchester. There's the Canal Street and things like that. I've been out there a few times, and you go into one of these bars or clubs, and immediately you get a lot of blokes looking at you, and you kind of have that brief window into what it's like to be a female, with all the kind of seedy guys looking at you. It's quite a role reversal moment where you're like, oh yeah, guys are pretty creepy actually. Yeah,
it made me laugh actually. A couple of years ago, I went on a football night out, and one of the lads he says, "Go on, we're going this new bar." When Maida Vale were quite new.
Oh yeah,
and I didn't know Maida Vale had quite a big gay scene. So
does it?
Yeah, apparently. Yeah.
Oh,
but when it first opened, it did.
Right.
So we're all stood there at this bar. We're looking around, and one of the lads goes, "Mate, there's no girls in here at all." And so we're like, "Oh, come on, we'll get going." I says, "Right, where's Nath?" So we turn around, look for my mate. He's just on dance floor, he's got pink cowboy hat on. He's fully embraced it. We've lost him. We're like, right, Nath, staying here. We're gonna move.
Nath, safe sex, mate. Safe sex.
I'm just like, you do you, mate. So that was fun. But
mega. I had no idea Maida Vale was like that. I thought
neither
did we. There are a couple of gay clubs in Sheffield, aren't there? Like, what is it? It's called Dempsey's. One of them. And there was one called Queer Junction.
Queer Junction?
Queer Junction.
That's
Yeah,
very
it was round the corner from Dempsey's.
That's very
I ended up in there one night as well.
That's very on the nose, that, isn't it?
Like, you know what you get in there.
That's true.
And weirdly enough, that was one place where I didn't know it was that place until someone told me. There was a nice combination, like guys, girls. Didn't seem like any creepy men in there. But there was one bloke in like his mid-40s who was going around a bit too excitable, a bit too chatty with people.
Fair.
And then it kind of made a lot of sense. You know, in the morning, when you're reliving the night out in the morning, and you think from that one bloke who's going around, oh yeah, of course, he's in Queer Junction, trying to get some young. I was going to say pussy.
Young bugs.
I was going to say some young pussy, but he doesn't have the pussy, that's for sure.
Oh, God.
Right, we've loaded the tone again.
Sorry, right. We're going to move on.
Back in, serious now.
Let's go.
Podcast Q&A. So we've got a few questions. We go straight off with number one. This is from a lad I know back home. He's recently got into like his trail running. He's recently got into long distance stuff, and I think he has a lot of like playlists and specific artists and bands that he listens to. So he asked the question, what do you think is the role of music in workouts and on motivation? How effective do you think that is?
Massively. And I say this as someone who's spin qualified, and I've done a lot of... I've never actually told you this. I'm qualified exercise to music.
Oh, yeah.
I am, yeah. Full grapevines.
Oh, God. Yeah. Actually, it makes a lot of sense because you told me that you used to do... what was it now? You used to name your classes, your spin classes.
Yeah.
It was...
Spindy.
Spindy. Yeah.
So,
great name, that.
I do like indie music. I like all sorts of stuff. But mine and Amy's tastes are quite eclectic. So Amy's very like emo heavy. Into a bit of rock. Like her dad's really into Foo Fighters, whereas I know my dad used to listen to reggae and all sorts of stuff. So it's really eclectic what we like. And then like it's interesting. Like, I think
I'm envisioning Amy now with the typical emo haircut, like coming across one eye.
I mean, I think she's changed.
A purple streak in the front of her hair.
Yeah, I'm talking full Hayley Williams. Yeah, Paramore. Yeah,
well, you'll know because you guys have been together since. Walter's about to pull their.
Come on, Walter! Walter! Come on, let's go that way.
Walter, come on.
Well, in terms of music, I'll be honest, mate. Music plays a huge part in. We covered it a couple of weeks ago, haven't we? Like how music sort of changes depending on the phases. I think it plays a massive role because, you know, whether it's BPM, I think a lot can actually be said about BPM in terms of what it does to you, what music you listen to when you're steady state, high intensity, strength training. It does differ massively.
Totally agree. My music taste is also very eclectic, and I have different genres for different types and methods of training. So because my methods of training now is much more diverse than it used to be, I'm doing obviously your strength stuff, a little bit of bodybuilding stuff still in there. I'm doing a lot more of like your cardio in terms of running and like the conditioning style stuff, circuits with weights. I've got different genres and playlists for everyone, and I couldn't listen to rock music while I'm running. I just can't.
No.
But when I'm lifting heavy weights in the gym, my God, is that like the go-to thing for me to really get me in the zone. Same with like, I do quite like a bit of drum and bass, like upbeat, euphoric kind of drum and bass. Love a bit of that when I'm running.
Yep.
Again, it's BPM, it's tempo, it's setting a rhythm and a almost like a metronome for my run in terms of my pacing. I really like that. And the difference in BPM between drum and bass and house is massive as well. So obviously we've had some terrible weather in Sheffield recently, so you can't run outside. So I did my first 10k on a treadmill, which was pretty grim. But I found during that, because I wasn't going all out, I liked the house. I opted for the house over anything else. Whereas if I'm doing like a 1.5 or 1 kilometre sprint and I'm doing that as like, you know, multiple rounds, it's got to be like drum and bass, upbeat, tempo, fast paced.
I feel like I love Spotify for that because the algorithm sort of knows you pretty well. So as soon as you go on like, I don't know, something radio, could be like, you know, drum and bass radio or whatever, it'll give you a lot of suggestions and recommendations. And I love that about Spotify. I feel like the algorithm's absolutely bob on.
It does, yeah. I think it's, they've obviously used AI, don't they? So they'll recommend things that you've listened to before. They'll recommend things that it thinks you'll like, and it is really good. I found a lot of songs, like new songs, through just like you get to another playlist and it'll start throwing out random things it thinks you like. And I'm like, this is an absolute beat. What's this? And I've just like added it straight into the playlist. It's good. Yeah, good.
Have you seen the suggestions that you can do for Spotify? So if you get on your playlist, there'll be it's almost like covered in sparkle sometimes, where if you click on it, it'll add things to your playlist, but like provisionally. So you have to give it a plus or a minus if you want it adding or not.
That's interesting. No,
So
I've not seen that.
so I think it's called like Smart Shuffle or something like that. So it adds,
I have seen Smart
yeah,
Shuffle.
Smart Shuffle, that's what it's called.
Okay.
Yeah, I love half
when
my
it-
playlists are built like that. Yeah.
I've seen that because when I'll shuffle the music sometimes, there's a normal shuffle and there's a shuffle with like a little weird sparkly bit over the shuffle. And that must be what it is.
Yeah. Have you got a track in particular that's, I don't know, you hear it and you go, all right, I'm locked in now. I'm
It's my
locked in.
Spotify on it. It is actually.
Which,
Yeah, there's one. There's one.
okay.
It's like I found it last year when I went away on holiday. So it's when I proposed to Amy. So I went to Mijas, just outside Marbella in Spain, to propose to Amy, and round that area is just literally the most disgusting inclines of hills you'll ever find anywhere. It's such a tough place to run. And I was just doing exactly the same thing, had one of my normal drum and bass playlists on, and it threw out this song called Go Back.
Oh, you've disappointed me, mate. I thought I'd got it then.
It's called Go Back by John Summit, and I think it's Sub Focus. When that comes on, it's basically two different genres and artists. So John Summit is more well known for like your housey stuff, a bit harder house. Sub Focus is very drum and bass orientated, and the BPM changes mid-track.
Yeah.
So it goes from it starts quite housey, that kind of low tempo, and then all of a sudden it starts to build in this normal, like, as a kind of dance track does, it builds, and then the BPM gets faster mid-track, and all of a sudden it just kicks into this drum and bass, and I'm like, this is fucking brilliant.
Where does this come from?
I remember being like, you know what, you pointed out it before, I'm not sure if you've had runners high, but given the right circumstances, I do get runners high quite easy, and a lot of it is music orientated for me. And I remember just running up this hill in Mijas, and I was like, I feel, even though this is a ridiculously steep incline, my legs are burning, my heart rate's pumping, you get this adrenaline rush from the track, and I just felt like I could run forever. And every time I listen to that track now, it brings back a little bit of that. So it's almost like I'll actually purposely put this track on sometimes in really difficult parts of runs to get me through it, and I really have that. And I remember when I find a track I really like, I've got no shame in saying I will literally just put the track on, go to the bottom, repeat one track, and I will listen to that track for like 90 minutes on repeat.
Wow.
If it keeps me in a zone mentally, whether it's a rock song for my heavy weight-based stuff, whether it's a drum and bass tune for my runs, I'm happy listening to the same track for an hour on repeat if it just keeps me in that frame of mind where I'm like, I'm all systems go here.
I love that because, I don't know, I'm a little bit more, I like to flick between stuff, which I've got, I don't know if I've told you this, I've got a specific like morning playlist that I put on because I like to get in a certain energy for the day. I feel like if I start off and I've got, like in the car on the way to the gym or way to work, I put on this morning playlist, put it on shuffle, and every single song in there I know just makes me happy. But yeah.
I'm imagining like a little bit of a lo-fi like tune, or is it more like, or maybe it's like reggae, like your dad's stuff. Is it? What is it? Talk me through the playlist. What's on it?
There's all sorts. There's stuff that weirdly, like you said, it's linked to memories.
Yeah.
So there's stuff that reminds me of the wedding, not necessarily like the wedding song or like when Teddy were born. There's certain songs.
What was your wedding song, by the way? Your first dance.
It was when this, right, I've got it because it sounds dead basic when I say it, because everyone's like, oh, you got a cheering, did you?
Okay.
It was Perfect by a cheering.
Nice. But you got married years ago before like all that stuff became quite popular.
That wasn't released yet. I'm a big fan of like album tracks. So I thought,
Right.
we heard this track and we looked at each other and we thought, right, that's it. Perfect. There you go. But all of a sudden he released it and it went massive. So you're like, oh God, I'm going to sound really proper basic now.
Yeah.
So like that is in there. Then there's other stuff that reminds me of Ted. Like there's an amazing, I think it's John Lennon, called Beautiful Boy.
Okay.
That chokes me up every time I hear it.
Beautiful Boy.
Yeah, it's brilliant. It's really good. It's
Not massively into John Lennon. I don't know. Never listened to the Beatles. I have listened to them, but never really got into them more. John Lennon stuff.
John Lennon apparently was a bit of a bell end, but
Was it?
But I can sort of see past that 'cause it's a beautiful track.
Look, you pick out any successful rock star in any band. They're all got elements of bellends about them.
Exactly. And then I know there's little bits like, look, there's album tracks in there that you've probably not heard. Like, I'm a big fan of Plan B, and there's a few Plan B tracks in there.
I love Plan B.
Yeah.
Plan B was dark back in the day, though.
Yeah.
He had some really good mainstream tracks, but Plan B was like,
Yeah.
back in the day, he really. I remember, what was it now? There was one where he was talking about like incestuous relationships with like dad and daughter and things like that. And but he was really good with his words, so he would paint these pictures within his songs. Do you remember Charmaine? Where it was the one where it was a guy who slept with an underage girl, but she told him he was older and he was now in a lot of trouble.
Dark, innit?
Yeah, there was loads of dark tracks by Plan B.
There's an amazing track that he does called First Past the Post, where it's a political song.
Right.
I'm not going to get into it, but fascinating. Now, if you don't understand politics, he raps how politics works and like the voting system. It's insane. Wow. It is so good. But yeah, just little things.
Is that a new one, an old one?
No, it's I think it was when Brexit happening. He released it then.
Wow.
Yeah, and obviously it didn't get much traction because it was very political.
Yeah.
It did on the underground scene, but mainstream didn't go anywhere.
It's fascinating because I think Plan B was mega when I was a kid. That album he dropped, I can't remember what it's called. And I can picture the kind of cover, but
Defamation of Strickland Banks.
Yeah, it was. That's right. Yeah. He was huge. Everyone was listening to his stuff, and then he just seemed to drop off the face of the earth. I think he did a bit of acting, didn't he?
Yeah, I think he made a few choices that were very politicized. Is that a word?
Yeah. Well, let's go with it.
Yeah, let's roll with it. And I think it probably hindered his career a little bit. But no, I'll be honest, mate. There's a lot of stuff that I really like listening to that, again, I can link to memories. So yeah, I'll can't remember many off the top of my head, but yeah, it makes me smile every time I hear them.
There's a lot of tracks that I listen to now that really remind me of my childhood, and a lot of them are related to when I used to drive in the car with my dad. So my dad would drive me everywhere, basically. Football training, maybe not to school, but like a lot of the recreational, social stuff, he would take me there. And just like, I'm really into Motown. I'm really into like, even all my mates say I'm way before my time and stuff like that, because I can just like sing all the words to most Motown songs. And when we go on like trips like to London or something, we'll have a night out in the morning, I'm banging Motown, and I was like, what is he doing listening to this like mad music? But I feel reminds me of my dad.
I feel a bit like that with, I can't believe I'm going to publicly say this, Dolly Parton.
Really?
My mum's a huge Dolly Parton fan. Yeah, so I've had that like subliminally in my ears for
my mum was a big
years.
What's he called now? He was called Billy Ocean.
Billy Ocean.
Yeah, my mum loved Billy Ocean. I remember in the car when I used to drive to school with her, she'd always have like a little A tracker like Billy Ocean. She'd put that on. That was awesome. Yeah, even now when I hear like I was going to sing them, but I'm not. You don't want to hear that, bad boy.
Let's bypass that one. But no, I think for me, what track I heard recently? It's Chasing Status one with Stormzy, Backbone.
Oh, that's right.
Mate,
yeah, big tune. Yeah,
hypes me up.
There's certain tracks that come up. Again, I think Sub Focus and Chasing Status. Those two have been around for a long time. That drum and bassy feel. It's quite like tempo. Like I get like a bit of a. Sometimes I honestly, the original question was this, right? The role music plays in workouts and motivation. I've had it before recently where I've been sat in my office doing some work. A track's come on. I've dropped everything, ran to the bedroom, put my clothes on, ran downstairs, put my shoes on, straight out the door for a 5-10k run. Because the song's just literally so much triggered in my brain where I've got this like aggression where I need to go out and just like expel this energy that I can feel inside me. I'm
glad Rick Astley does that for you, mate.
I gotta love it, Rick.
Yeah, why not?
Rick Astley always reminds me of those guys on. Do you remember that Pop Idol? There was a couple of lads who auditioned and they tried to reenact Rick Astley. I can't remember the name now.
Is it?
Hilarious. I'll have to put it up for you.
All right, I'll have a look.
But no, I mean, it's normally like drum bass, not Rick Astley for the record. But,
I think to link it to why it's probably linking to motivation and working out, for me, it's linking to memories. It's that time that you hit a PB. It's that memory that you had. Like there's a Calvin Harris and Tom Grennan track. I can't remember what it's called now. But we went to Tramlines last year. Tom Grennan were there. Ted all of a sudden just loved Tom Grennan. And there's a memory that I've got where he's on my father-in-law's shoulders. He's got his little ear defenders on. He's giving it some when this track come on.
Amazing.
Oh, unbelievable. So
just to know that you, even like as a dad, like if you know your daughter or son loves the track, it suddenly becomes one of your favourites.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
a bonding thing. And like, God, Disney tracks in our house. I mean, it's funny because you get your Spotify Wraps at the end of the year, don't
Yeah.
you? Like, there was 2 Moana tracks in mine, and I don't listen to them in my own time, put it that way. Amy's number 1 was like, You're Welcome,
Right.
from the Moana track. So, but again, you listen to it with them because it's like a good thing. It gets you hyped and you're dancing, and just to see them happy, I can see why that. If it's not a Disney track that you can listen to away from, outside the gym,
True.
then yeah, why not?
Not one for now, but we did watch Moana 2 on your recommendation.
Did you?
And it's right in the feels, mate. Yeah, Ted's first cinema trip.
Was
Yeah.
it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he loved it.
It was Harlow's first cinema trip as well. She loved it, but there's a lot of loud music and noises, and I think she doesn't like that. She's a bit scared. That's probably her kryptonite, like big loud speakers. So it took her a while to adjust.
Yeah, and Ted's not really got a quiet button, so he'll just shout questions at really sensitive times. So like,
Love
right at the
that.
end of that bit that you told me, Ted'd be like, "What's happening?" God's sake, kid.
And then like you felt you've got to explain it in front of everyone in the cinema.
yeah, I'm like, just be quiet, kid. Watch it.
So no, I mean the role of music on workouts and motivation, I guess it's kind of an obvious one, but I know a lot of people that don't listen to music. I remember a mate from uni just didn't like music, never listened. Everywhere he would walk, and it just didn't get music. Well, didn't have a favourite artist. And I remember him asking us, well, we asked him one time, like, what's your favourite track? And he went, oh, I quite like that Eminem track. And it was like some random Eminem one, but there was no music. He didn't have a style, didn't have a genre he liked, wouldn't listen to it in his own time. Just not fussed by music, which I think, as someone who's grown up around it so heavily, baffled my mind that.
I once saw a Would You Rather once, which were, would you rather have a world with no sport or no music? That's solid, isn't it?
Whoa, that is tough.
That's tough, isn't it?
I'd say no sport.
Would you?
Yeah, I'd say no sport.
Wow.
Because I can do sport. I can do the sport as long as I can listen to the music while I'm doing the sport.
They say it a lot with athletes, don't they? Like athletes want to be musicians, musicians want to be athletes.
Yeah.
They seem to like
Synonymous.
interchangeable.
Yeah. I think it's a Drake quote, that. I'm sure it is.
Is it?
I think it is, yeah.
God damn Drake.
His quote seep into our podcast more
God's
than...
sake. Unbelievable.
Right, should we go on to our next one?
Shall we?
Tips for struggling with health anxiety.
This come from someone I know pretty well, and I've since spoken to this person, and I'll keep them anonymous just because they didn't ask to be named, but they have just consumed a lot of information, and I'll cite them actually. They've listened to a lot of Rogan, listened to a lot of Modern Wisdom, a lot of really intense like health focus, a lot of Diary of a CEO, and it just seems like they don't know where to turn. So my advice to them is always just, can you curate what you listen to a little bit more? Do you need to know more? Or can you start actioning some things with that scale of consumption versus action? They were probably consuming a lot. So health anxiety is a tough one. You seem to worry about every little action. What is this doing to me? What is this going to do to me down the line? Is it going to kill me? Is this going to give me a disease? Is this going to injure me? It's exhausting. So tiring.
That's massively related to like a lot of deeper rooted issues, let's be honest. So it also falls under the realm of like germaphobes who have some underlying sense of OCD and paranoia and anxiety around life itself. And then they fix onto things. Some people it's germs, some people it's health, some people it's, I don't know, masturbation. Do you know what I mean? Like some guys get addicted to like, masturbating. It can be anything. It can be like anything you can get fixated on, worry about. And for health, with it being such a hot topic at the moment, if you're in that realm and you kind of listen to those kind of podcasts, it can be very confusing. You can take things, I think, a little bit too literally. Maybe it's easier for us as people who understand what those experts are talking about, and we know what to take with a pinch of salt and what not to. But I get for your average person, it's very difficult to listen to so many podcasts from, Diary of a CEO, obviously Stephen Bartlett. You can listen to Modern Wisdom, Chris Williamson. You can listen to anyone who's prominent in the health world, Joe Rogan. And they get these experts on, and some of these experts will give you a 3-hour explanation as to why their point of view is so valid and so reasonable and tangible. And they can almost convince you sometimes that, oh my God, this guy speaks so much sense. I get that. And then the day after, you listen to a guy with a completely the polar opposite opinion. You're like, oh no, this guy's right. I get that. And they're very compelling in the way they speak. These very intelligent, articulate people they have on, experts in their field. But you can't take their advice so literally. You have to, I think, take it on board, experiment with it, and not allow it to create conflict in your own mind.
Without doubt. And I wrote down a word here, which is, 2 words, divergent thinking, if you've come across this before.
Oh.
It's basically knowing that there's multiple correct answers, but you just have to select the right one for you. So what's right for me could be different for you, but there's multiple different right ways. I think Pete said it on his podcast a couple of weeks ago, where he says there's numerous ways to get to Scotland. There's different A roads and that sort of stuff. You've just got to choose what's right for you. You might want a scenic route. You might want the fastest route. You might want the most, fuel efficient route. You just have to know that what is good for you.
Yeah, interesting.
And that, which I think this goes hand in hand with stoicism as well. And I'm not in a cult, Ryan. I promise you.
I did worry.
Stoicism's a weird one because Ryan Holiday's really popularised it. It's all about this ancient way of thinking. And if you see some of the problems that these people 2,000 years ago struggled with, they're very similar to what we struggle with now.
I bet. I actually think a lot of I read a really interesting stat the other day. It was something, I think the stat was 5,000 years ago, they had as much stress in their life and stimulus in their life as we have in one day.
Wow. That's weird.
How crazy is that?
Yeah.
Because there's so many more things and jobs and tasks and screens and the ability to interact now and worry about things today than there was back then.
I suppose you think about the level of information we've got. We're probably not supposed to absorb this much.
We're not supposed to know what's going on in America, China, USA, India. We're not supposed to know. But just having that thing on the news of all these wildfires spreading through LA, burning the whole city down, the fire engines didn't have enough water, you go, shit, what if we had a fire? Have we got enough water? How well equipped are we for that kind of stuff? And suddenly you start thinking about these things, your own family, especially as a family man.
Yeah.
You start thinking, what would I do? Where would we go? And that's just not a worry that we need to have. So that's just one thing. Again, one little headline that you see in the news sends that man into a frenzy. Yeah. All they had to worry about that back then was having enough food. If you got a big kill for the day, you were sorted for the week. There was so much less stress. Must have been a really nice way to live, let's be honest.
They call it catastrophizing, don't they? Where you just think of the worst thing and you don't know what you don't know. That's the key thing. But when you know, like you said, what's going off in China, America, you can panic about things that are probably never going to impact you. But when it comes to your health, you probably have got an element of control. But it's hard because a lot of people who I know who really almost suffer with that health anxiety, they're probably not doing the basics right anyway. And you think, well, do the basics, get that nailed down, and then look at what level. You're thinking level 49. You need to get back down to level 2 or 3. Yeah.
I think the biggest... Whenever I feel most overwhelmed in life is actually with my work. When I think about how many things I've got to do and the big end goal at the end of it. So I've got an end goal of where I want my business to be. I've got an end goal of where I want my life to be. And sometimes when things get really too much and there's so much on my plate and maybe I'm not outsourcing enough, I'm trying to take on too many things myself, I go for this panicky, overwhelming sense, and that's when my sleep gets affected. I start having like sleepless nights a little bit because there's so much to do, and that end goal I feel like it starts slipping away a little bit. And I think people get the same way with their health and fitness, where they have this end goal of how they want to look, how they want to perform, what numbers they want to shift, what scale weight they want to see. And when they hear so much information and something that's contradicting information, it sends them into a frenzy because your whole routine gets thrown into disrepute when you hear one podcast breaking down why what you're currently doing isn't working. And you go, well, I've been doing this program for 6 months. This person's saying everything I'm doing is wrong. Shit, have I just wasted 6 months of my life? Why am I doing this? And then you start having these kind of internal battles around what's right and what's wrong. I do think sometimes that's where having a focal point of direction, like a North Star, like a North Star being like a coach, someone who's the only person you're really taking direction from. When you're trying to take on a lot of this information and process it, and program and plan your life and workouts and nutrition around just the things you're taking on board, it can be very overwhelming. I totally understand and appreciate why people get health anxiety, for sure.
You've said it about one of your clients in the past who said, I quite like just having one voice. And we can save people a lot of time. This is not an endorsement for our coaching, by the way, but it's just coaches in general, where we can save you a lot of time. We can save you scouring the internet for PubMed, Examine.com, whatever it is, just scouring YouTube. If you ask us a question, odds are we've either worked with someone who's done it and we've got anecdotal evidence, but we've also got the science as well, because that's what we have to do. We have to keep up to date with it. So if we can save people a lot of time.
Generally, I'll favour anecdotal evidence over studies. Generally. Because I think, especially if that anecdotal evidence is from a coach who's worked with multiple people and seen multiple reinforcing positives with that theory that they've got. Because it makes sense. It's practical, it's worked.
It's funny you should say that. I'm experimenting with something at the moment where when it comes to a step goal, somebody at the minute's doing, one of our clients doing 4,000 steps a day. You know, we're really trying to boost it up. We tried overshooting, going for 10,000, and they fell well short. So we've actually broke it down to how many more steps an hour do you have to do? So much more effective. If we want to add on an extra 2,000 and they're awake for 16 hours, I'm doing some quick maths here, turns out to be like 125 extra steps an hour. That's not a lot.
No.
That's a trip to the toilet and back for most people.
How big's your house?
If they're in an office. You know. So it's, it gets you thinking. You think, that's not that much. That's really not that much. And just simplifying it.
It's a lap round block, isn't it? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like every hour, set a timer, just get up, lap around the block, back in.
That's just
neighbours will think you've lost the plot.
But then if you
don't go out in your your dressing gown, because then they will think you've lost the plot. And leave that bottle of cider at home as well.
But even things like a walking pad, you know, you can very easily 10x that an hour if you wanted to. Yeah.
I've used this guy before, Mitch. You know, he bought a walking pad and he'll just do like a 6-hour stint at his laptop walking.
Wow.
And he's burning like 20,000, 30,000 steps.
Wow.
Just walking at his laptop. And he's got a good sweat and everything, but he's it's been revolutionary, I would say. It's really changed the game for him in terms of calorie expenditure. Walking pads, they are awesome. I can't recommend them enough. For sure.
Don't get me wrong, that's perfect for a person who's in an office all day, for example. Yeah. That's a nice way of saying, how can you simplify it? How can you have time to think about it? And us as coaches, we probably give people that clarity.
Just circling back to the question itself, tips for struggling with health anxiety. I think we've mentioned a few things there. I think having like a North Star, like having someone you go to bounce ideas off. If you're not paying for the services of a coach, do you have a friend who's in the know? Do you have a friend who is a coach? You can just kind of say, well, look, I'm getting quite overwhelmed with some of the information that I'm seeing. Can I run through a few things by you? They generally, and as a coach myself, I have no issue whatsoever with any person I've coached in the past, or friend or family member, getting in touch randomly and saying, look, Ryan, I've seen this thing, I'm struggling with this, can you give me a bit of information? I love it. Actually, it's quite nice to touch base with a few people and reconnect that way. So it sounds like the person who's asked this question has got you maybe as their kind of North Star a little bit if they really are struggling.
Which is great. And combining that with getting some quiet. You know, can you curate your news feed a little bit? Can you maybe not listen to as much? Can you maybe wash the pots without having a podcast on and just be there?
Yeah.
And that probably gives them a bit of time to digest the information that they've got. Because if all you've got is like stimulus, you've got no reflection. You're like, what did I find useful there? There's no reflection there.
What I will also say as well, I think while we're on the topic of a few of these big named podcasts, I think some of the guests that these guys get on have polarizing views and very close to the edge opinions because they sell. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
The eyes, the ears, the marketing, they are on these podcasts for a reason because they know that they're going to be quite shocking. Yeah. Shocking shit sells, basically. And Darry, the CEO, got a really bad reputation, a bit of flack for this. And there's a guy called Ben Coomber who's come out quite publicly. He's big online. He's got a really good nutrition following. Nutritionist by nature, had quite a lot of good companies in terms of education. Big back in the day when I first got into the industry, maybe not so much anymore. But he's come out publicly and said that what he's doing is complete disinformation, really. A lot of people that he gets on, especially Stephen Bartlett, onto a Diary of a CEO, it's a bit like the snake oil guys. He gets a lot of those guys in there where they're not really speaking science and facts.
Yeah.
They've just got an opinion about something that they believe is right. Maybe they've seen some results with some people. Bit like Liver King. Bit like Eddie Abu.
Yeah.
There's no real backing to what they say. They don't really recite studies. It's just, this is what I believe. This is my hard stance on it. I'm going to tell you on my message in a brash, quite abrupt way. And you're going to pay attention to it.
I think Bartlett's main criticism has probably been he is a bit of a fearmonger for health. And if people start thinking about their health a little bit more, maybe they'll turn to healthy products. Oh, he has a healthy product. Oh, what a surprise. And that's the cynical view. But you think, well, why else are you doing it? Like, you are a business podcast. Why are you... So I think I can see where he's coming from. Like, well, if we focus on health, people will be more productive. I just worry about that scapegoat. And I'm quite glad that people are standing up to this. Because that's why I think you said before, like, oh, you know, anyone could have a podcast. That's terrifying. That is so scary.
Yeah. I mean, why did we start a podcast? Yeah. Who gave us a podcast? Christ,
who did that?
But there's a funny sketch I saw, actually. And there's a lot of people in the comedic world picking up on podcasts and what's going on and taking the mickey a little bit in a good, light-hearted, but actually quite truthful way.
Yeah.
There was one comedian who's got a really good podcast, and he had Chris Williamson on. Do you see this recently?
I saw the clip. Is it Ian Sterling?
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
I'm going to talk to you about that.
So Ian Sterling's the voiceover guy for Love Island.
Yeah. Chris were in Love Island, weren't they?
Yeah. And on that same video, he was talking about, like, oh, I did watch one of your other episodes, and it was you talking to a millionaire about how difficult it is for men to live in today's society. And I was like, it was very poignant. Like, yeah, you're right. You get a lot of millionaires who go onto these podcasts, try and give that advice and tell people how difficult it is to be a man when they're actually living life of Riley in a big mansion, driving around in a nice car.
Yeah.
Be careful again who you listen to, who's got the solutions to the problems that you've got.
I think that's why I love the everyday men. Like, we've had numerous of our clients on. Dan's probably the big standout one for me because he's every man.
Yeah.
He's every man who's done this amazing thing we all support. And I love that side of it. Yeah. They're the people you really relate to. You know, he's had to graft. He's been in the hard graft. He's been in the, you know, in the trenches.
He's been the guy that everyone else has been. Like, I've obviously taken him from day one to where he is now. And, you know, this is a guy who made all the excuses, did all the wrong things, took all the wrong turns, found every reason not to do what you want to do, but again, had a North Star, had someone he was listening to, for sure.
100%.
Should we move on? Next question, we are going to hit number 3, which is, how do we plan our weekly meals?
We use the notes section on an iPhone, and we do a shared note.
Cool.
So we've got a shopping list on there. We tick it if we've got it and we don't need it, and then we leave it blank if we need to pick it up. And then right at the bottom, we'll type in there, like, what do we fancy? And we'll base it around like a meat source. So most of my clients will laugh at this because Monday is basically fish day. We try and get the fish in nice and early in the week.
Right.
So Costco salmon seems to be massive. Massive Costco salmon. So, we'll typically do something with salmon, whether it's, you know, some sort of pasta, med, veg and rice, whether it's some sort of, I've been doing stir fries a lot, salmon stir fries. Unbelievable. But we'll sort of work it around that, and it's quite a fluid conversation normally. It's probably very Amy heavy because she very much be like, you know,
is she the cook?
We very much share it, which is nice. We share it, but Amy's very much the inspiration for stuff. I'm that weirdo who can probably eat similar things 5 out of the 7 days. I don't really care. As long as I get a little bit of variation in the weekend, I'm not too fussed, but yeah.
Interesting. So you have fish on Mondays, meat rest of the days, is it? Some kind of like lamb,
I feel like
chicken,
fish and a rice
beef?
Cake man now. You've seen this?
Oh, okay,
a fish and a rice cake. You've seen it? Yeah. I don't know, I love a burger. Love a burger at a week, on a Friday maybe.
Okay.
Yeah. We'll come in.
You make it yourself, order it out? Or?
Yeah, we normally, we try and make as much as we can. Okay. Sunday, as you know, Sunday dinner typically we'll
most weeks, really?
Most weeks, yeah.
Really?
We'll put the trimmings on there. We'll get practicing. And then in midweek we'll try something the slow cooker for the days we're going to be out quite a lot.
Okay.
So we'll almost prep it on the Wednesday night, for example, if we're going to slow cook on a Thursday, put it in the fridge and then take it out, put it on Thursday morning, leave it.
Yeah.
Typically beef. That's nice.
Yeah. Do like a slow cooked beef, like pulls apart. Yeah.
There's a lot to be said. Like I'm big with my clients about varying your protein sources. Our body loves that variety of protein, like amino acids, different sort of a big variety. Our bodies respond really well to that. So we make a big effort of that in our house.
Just variety in general, not proteins, but veggies, carbohydrate sources. We do get caught in the same web sometimes of eating the same foods, which I think is why health food in general can become quite boring and monotonous, because we associate certain foods with certain functionalities. And I think a lot of people are like straight down the middle, like when I'm on diet, chicken, rice, veg, pastas, fish. And when I'm not, it's like sandwiches and takeouts and these are the things. There's ways of interlacing those two, and that's pretty much how my month looks, really. My week is a bit dysfunctional.
I didn't expect that from
very,
you.
Very not as organised as you.
Okay.
I tend to... I'm very robotic, mate.
Okay.
I'm not the best person, I think, to answer this, because the way I live is I don't have a lot of variety. I just don't. I eat kind of very simple, samey foods, going against a lot of like the kind of general status quo of what nutrition should be in terms of diversity. Don't eat... I'm trying to have more veg, but generally speaking, don't have a massive amount. I'm going to tell you a little hack in a second that in the new year I'm going to really push for. That's going to get me more veg in. But I've had the same breakfast for the past 12 years.
Really?
12 years.
No like rotation, no like I'll have them overnight oats and then I'll switch it to
I only
omelette or whatever.
vary if I'm not at home or I haven't got them in. 5 eggs, 25 grams of mayo, wilted spinach.
Wow.
That's it.
Just love it.
That's it. My biggest variance is I might use some peas instead of spinach. You know what I mean?
All right, yeah.
That's me. 12 years in. I've had it every single morning.
I feel like you need to try my world's biggest omelette that I normally have on a Thursday morning.
World's biggest omelette?
I
How many
swear.
eggs go into this?
I mean, there's 5 eggs in there, so it's it takes a while to cook.
Okay.
But
That's what I have. I have 5 eggs.
I put all sorts in.
Do you?
Yeah, just anything that's in the fridge, and I'm like, oh, I can go in.
Yeah.
Whack it. Oh, some feta cheese, yeah, whatever.
Like a pancake mix back in the day.
Whatever. Yeah, I'll just whack it in and try it.
I do like those, but I tend to have them more of like... I usually have the omelette, but I always just for speed.
Yeah.
Scrambled eggs.
Yeah.
It cooks so much quicker than omelette.
Scromlet.
Yeah,
Scromlet.
yeah. It starts as an omelette and then like you kind of scramble it up a little bit.
whatever.
Yeah. So I've had that for this fast. That, again, super robotic. Works. It's functional. I can make it every morning. Lunchtime tends to be some kind of like... So my fridge is a bit like a catering fridge. I think we've spoken about this maybe on the podcast before, where I've just got like... I do some meal prep at a weekend, so I'll do like 7, 8, 9 chicken breasts for the week. I'll make some beef burgers at 5% mince, and they'll just sit in like a Tupperware box. What else will I have? I'll have maybe a box of potatoes I've cooked in like a tray bake thing in the oven. Maybe I'll have some veg in a Tupperware box as well, and I'll just go to the fridge, chicken breast, handful of potatoes, bit of veg, warm up in the microwave.
Fair.
Some Tommy K, some barbecue sauce, and I'm good to go. So that's my lunch.
You're a full like week prepper.
No, I don't prep for the full week. I just bulk cook as whatever I've got and see how long it lasts me.
Fair.
I'm not as set as in a routine of like, right, this is meal 1 Monday, this is meal 2 Monday, this is meal 3 Tuesday, this is meal 4. I'm not like that. I've just got loads of chicken breast, loads of that. Let's see how long it lasts. If I get to like Friday and it's all gone, I might be scrambling around a little bit. And I've got my backup is I've always got like some high protein microwave meals in the fridge. I have these like frozen fish in the fridge as well. So how they do them, it's a brilliant thing. It's like they call it a lightly dusted bassa fillet.
Oh, okay.
And it's like a bassa fillet, which is pretty high in protein. It's good. I used to get it from butchers back in the day, but they do them as they do like a lemon and herb, a garlic one. They do like a salt and pepper one, and they're just very lightly like fried in something. But the macros on it are great, the calories on it are great, and I've always got those as a backup. They take a little bit longer to cook, like probably looking at 40 minutes to cook it all the way through.
Fair.
But if I'm struggling, I've got nothing in the fridge and there's nothing in the cupboards. I'm also quite a big snack person, quite snack heavy. So I've always got some nuts. I've always got a protein shake on hand. Always got protein yogurts. I've got loads of fruit. I like bananas. I mean, I like every fruit, but bananas are always in the fridge, in the cupboard. Sorry, apples. I always have. What else is there? Has there protein yogurts, protein bars? I've normally got some of those knocking around.
I've seen the little dip that you do with the. Is it the?
That's right. Yeah.
So like oat bar things.
Yeah. So
dip them in.
In your protein yogurt. If you get one of the Nature Valley, like hard oat bars, dip them in there. I get these lemon cheesecake protein yogurts, and you dip some of the oat in there. Oh my god, it's like for me, it's as good as a cheesecake.
Fair.
Do you know what I mean?
Have you been to Costco?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Do you go regularly?
We did have a membership there. We didn't renew it, I think, a couple of years ago.
I imagine you've been a nightmare in there.
The only reason I don't go is because I can't go in there and spend any less than 250 quid.
Yeah.
I can't go in there. I go in there for one thing. Someone's told me they've got some great steaks, some salmon. Great, I'll go in there. Yeah. I'm walking out with a new lamp, a tin full of prawns that I don't need, a tray of sushi. I've got a new blow-up thing for the back garden. I'm like, right, I'm 250 quid down now. I can't go in there and spend any less than that. No. So it's not worth. I come to the conclusion that I can't do that every week.
Yeah. No, I think that's why I try and go with Amy as often as I can.
Is she an in and out person? She's good.
Yeah.
She's got to get a hot dog on the way out, which is about 50p for the world's largest hot dog.
They've just started doing warm cookies as well, which I saw the other day, and I'm like,
and they're doing massive slices of pizza as well, don't they?
Yeah.
So I just can't.
Did you know they lose money on that food?
Do they?
Yeah, I saw this the other day. They lose money on the food because some people go to Costco to be like, it's like the deciding factor. They go, well, we'll go to Costco because we can get some food after.
Yeah,
it's really clever.
Interesting.
But yeah. That's why it's so cheap, man.
It is phenomenally cheap for what you get. Yeah, it is good. But again, it's just a nightmare for me because I'm trying to diet. I'm trying to be around this good stuff, and I'm trying to stay within calories and stay fit, healthy, in good shape. And I don't need pizza being rammed down my throat as I'm leaving the supermarket. Get me to Asda where there's none of that.
Yeah, I think what we're trying to say is it takes a lot of organisation and habits to actually stick to some sort of
habits for sure,
weekly plan
for sure. If I don't know who asked this question, but I think if you're asking this question in regards to how it's going to help you out, I say this to any new client who comes onto my program: eat robotically for the first few weeks of any diet. Eat the same breakfast, eat the same lunches. You can have maybe a bit more variance in your evening meal, but eat the same things, and then find out a system and a way of working. I probably listed maybe 10, 15, 20 foods that I have a minute before. I don't really venture outside that. I just don't. I couldn't say the last time I ordered a takeaway. I just couldn't. We will have them occasionally, but it's like a special occasion.
What's takeaway of choice, by the way? What do you normally?
Pizza.
Pizza?
Yeah, pizza. I keep it simple. I like a big barbecue pizza.
I'm going to treat you to some Thai food, mate, soon.
Thai food? Amy loves Thai. I do like a pad Thai, a chicken pad Thai.
It's lovely, mate.
Yeah.
That Orphan Thai at halfway.
Oh, you mentioned this to me.
I'll sort you out, mate, because it's class.
That'd be good. But Amy loves the Chinese as well. Amy's is a go-to the Chinese, but and there's a lot of times that we're on, like, over Christmas, so many occasions, Amy sat me down and was like, come on, let's just get a Chinese. I'm like, no, why are we having a Chinese? We've got a cupboard, a fridge full of food. So many people do that where they've got all the things in the food. It's just a can't be arsed attitude. I think you have to get around that sometimes. Like, if you've got food in the fridge, it's there to be eaten, go for it. Like, just choose the good option. The choice is always there.
Choice is always there.
So hard in the moment to be like, you know what, I've prepped that meal, but I just fancy a pizza. It just doesn't do anything for you. Food is habits, like I said. It's psychological from when we were kids, which massively lays over into when we're adults, and through repetition and knowing what works for you, you have to get into these new habits and retrain that way of thinking around food.
And a lot of people can medicate with food as well, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And they rely on it as like a same way a smoker relies on cigarettes and alcoholic relies on alcohol. For some people, their poison is food. Like, that genuinely is.
Yeah.
It's killing you deep down. Yeah. And this is why another thing I always tell my clients is, the world we live in today is not designed to have you stay in shape. Think about that. The world we live in is designed to keep you unhealthy, keep you eating shit food, keep you wanting more shit food, and have you as unhealthy as possible. So if you want to be healthy, you have to go above and beyond. You have to make choices that are going to revolutionize the way you live. And that takes deep discipline and sacrifice. It really does. There's no other way around that. You have to appreciate and understand where the world is, and then know and have a clear direction on where you want to be. That's the only way you make change.
Even marketing messages, like, they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Like, it's a hard one. Like, you go and pay at a petrol station. Guess what's there? It's never fruit. It's never ever fruit. It's always like, oh, there's a chocolate bar there.
Yeah.
Fancy a chocolate bar before you leave. Just little things. They know what they're doing. They know what they're doing.
Absolutely.
But-
So it's designed to fail. Can you trump that and be that little success in the world?
I think one thing we found really beneficial is reducing the overwhelm, because a week's worth of prep for me, I just couldn't think of anything worse. My fridge being absolutely rammed, loads of Tupperware in there. I hate it.
Yeah,
So-
I'm the same. Like,
Yeah.
I've done in the past where I've done, before I met Amy, when I was a single lad, like, I would just prep all my food for the week. It'd be sat in there, easy, labelled up, Bob's your uncle. But when you've got a missus and a kid, like, you can't always do that. One thing I would say that I don't do a lot compared to the people is I don't eat with the rest of the family either. Which is, I don't always like admitting that, because it seems like a bit of like, oh, look at this lad, he thinks he's special, like, but I've always preferred eating by myself, and I always like being in control of my food, and I know that from a performance and results point of view, I get better results when I prepare my own food. Amy makes some amazing food, and she's awesome at helping out. My little hack, by the way, for getting more veg in there, is Amy started doing these soups where she puts in like peppers, onions, garlic, tomatoes, what else she put in there? Carrots. She blends it all up, and she makes 3 litres of soup, and then 500 millilitres of soup every day. So I'm getting like loads of veg now.
That's good effort.
But that's awesome. She helps me out with that. And we have little roles in the house as well, like who cooks what thing. So I'm usually breakfast man. So
Yeah.
I'll cook breakfast with Harlow. She'll have some of my eggs in the morning with me. Amy will obviously do evening meal, and then lunch is at nursery. But
I'm glad you said that, because I'm pie man.
pie man.
I'm pie man, and I seem to be stir fry man.
Okay.
And Amy's very much, Amy cooks some really good stuff, but it's all of a sudden, I seem to be pancake man as well.
Pancake man.
Anytime
Nice.
pancakes are on offer, mate,
Nice.
I'm the one.
Okay.
So we sort of get used to that. Like you said, what you're good at, can you do that more?
Harlow
Yeah,
will
of
have it as
course.
well, where if she wants eggs, Amy can't make them.
It's got to be you.
Got to be Dad.
Yeah.
Dad makes the eggs, and I don't know if she's a bit OCD or like, on the spectrum there, a little bit like, maybe like me to a certain degree, but she likes things how she likes them. Everything has to, I have to get her out of the car. Amy has to have this, when we leave the house. She's got to really like set things on certain stuff, and food's no different. She absolutely loves having certain roles in the house for certain people.
Fair. I'll get ready for the tantrums, mate, if they're not, bread's not quite cut in time.
Oh, mate, we've had all that, don't you worry. That's here.
Yeah, it's all
my
fun games.
iPad's died, mate.
Was it? Fair.
So I've got no idea what the other questions were. I think they were. Have you got them up on your?
Can do. The one that's going to be a bit tough to talk about, I think, is it's the men's loneliness question that we got. So we've got here, the men's loneliness crisis really needs some attention. Discuss. That's tough.
Oh, yeah,
That is
huge
tough.
topic. I mean, do we discuss this in one Q&A podcast, or is it a whole podcast by itself? I think having a whole podcast by itself is a little bit dark. It's like, I'm not sure it's, something we want to dedicate a whole episode to. So maybe we touch on it today.
For context, I think it comes down to friends and who people surround themselves with. I said this to you and Pete last week, but I've felt my circle really shrink. And that's a little bit of me getting my head down, working. It's not until you lift your head up and be like, oh, what have I done? And you sort of see that people who you really want to stay in touch with, you've not made the effort. They're the ones chasing you, and you go, I don't want that.
It's absolutely that. You've hit the nail on the head there. You have to make the effort. I think a lot of the loneliness crisis for men is like, we feel like we don't want to pester other blokes.
Yeah, that's fair.
And then we all are sat in our own little bubbles going, we don't want to pester each other, but we really want interaction. I think there's a lot of that going on. I think there is.
I think what's hard is we've never been more connected. But then it's all right messaging someone and sharing memes, which is a big pastime of mine. I always do that toss up between, I almost want to use social media less, But I find it so funny because some of the like stuff that gets sent to me is hilarious. And I just love it. I love it for that reason. And that compared to sat with someone having a conversation, having a catch up, having a coffee, going for a drink, whatever it is, it's different. Just being in someone's presence, having that chat, having that eye contact. It's a weird feeling. You can call someone, you can FaceTime, you can text, whatever, but it's not the same.
It was a conversation with Pete, wasn't it? We had about this on his episode about how different it is even in my job and what I do. A lot of my calls and consultations are online, and I feel like I don't do my best selling work. I don't sell a program myself as well over a call because there's little social cues like me now seeing your eyes, your ears, how things twitch, your head movements, little mannerisms that you do that allow me to understand how you're receiving the message that I'm telling. That's lost a little bit through call.
I always think this. Can you imagine if someone just, like, if they're on a call, they can just hang up or they can just end it. Imagine if I just stood up and just walked away now without saying a word. It's disappeared.
Exactly.
It's weird. You can't do that. Like, you have to almost endure something sometimes. And that's like
too easy for a cop-out.
Yeah. Whereas when you're with someone, you've got to, like you said, it's something different. Just about being in someone's presence. And unfortunately, I think a lot of men don't do that. And I'll say it from someone who, my argument was always, if I'm not with Amy and Ted, who am I with? Is that worth more than being with Amy and Ted? Yeah. And if you can take that to the extreme, and you shouldn't, because you have to understand that, listen, proportionally speaking, or percentage-wise, if you're going to get quite techie with it, if you're with your wife and kid 100% of the time, who are you? You're pretty one-dimensional. You're just somebody's husband and somebody's dad. But I wouldn't want that for Ted. I'd want Ted to go and have a laugh, go and expand his horizons, go and speak to people, go and challenge yourself. There's obviously a time and a place, and love Amy and Ted dearly, but you can't just be with them all the time.
I'm about to say one of the most controversial things I think I've ever said in the podcast.
Okay, I'm braced.
Some of the most boring men I know are the men who are just too into the family unit. They don't have a close-knit circle of men they talk to. They don't have blokes they bounce ideas off. They don't have banter. They don't just get other men. They're surrounded by the family unit. They do what they're told, and there's no sense of freedom in their life. It's the through quote. Most men live lives of quiet desperation because they're just bought into this life they didn't really sign up for. And I think too many men try and be too good a dad. Be a great dad, no doubt about that. But don't neglect yourself and your social interactions with your friends. And you mentioned it before, where you said, I looked at my mate, went to wish him a happy birthday, and I hadn't messaged him since March, 10 months ago? Long time, right? But you just got into that habit of being okay, I'm just, I'm too into my work here, or I'm too busy into the family unit, and you bounce between those two things in your life, family and work. You have to go out and enjoy yourself, have some things that are for you. You become I think you just become a boring person if you're not, having really good, deep, meaningful conversations with other men.
Why do you think
I feel like I sound like Andrew Tate at the moment. Do you know what I mean? But I'm all for. I think the men's loneliness crisis is based around the fact that we just don't value strong, manly conversations around bloke stuff. Whether it's banter, whether it is just quite, I don't know, innuendo based. Seedy conversations with other blokes around stupid stuff, having silly banter we were. It's based around playground stuff as well, things we used to do in the playground where you trip each other up, or you go and get on your hands and knees behind someone and they push you over. Do you know what I mean? These things are brilliant. When I've been on stag do's with mates in the past, we'll do those things. We'll do those same things we used to do in the playground as adults, and that is a real good, fun bonding time with men. That's what men are missing. That's why the loneliness crisis is so big, because we're letting those relationships with other men fade and die. I think it's a difficult one, because you can get yourself into a bit of a bubble with this where you feel like you've got no one to reach out to. But I think the best thing you can do to get around that loneliness crisis is reach out to other men and other friends, other guys that you have respect for, want to get close to. sometimes that comes through exploring new hobbies. You go to a new gym, you join a new class, you meet a few new guys there. They're pretty cool. All right, cool. I'm in with this now. Sometimes it's through, I don't know, I've got one guy who's Warhammer, and he's met a whole new group of friends through doing Warhammer at like Patriot Games, which is a games place in Sheffield. He loves that. There's so many avenues. It's about exploring your hobbies and seeking out good, meaningful bonds with other men through those things.
Without doubt, mate. There's a guy who I follow called, I think he's called Charlie Hone, and he was the guy who sort of was a big driver behind Tim Ferriss's early books. And he's got a quote which is, do you know what the opposite of play is? What's the first thing that springs to your mind? Opposite of play.
Boring.
A lot of people say work, boring. It's depression.
Wow.
If you don't play, what are you doing? If there's no play that you do, if everything's just transactional, if everything's just work, or you're just doing things transactionally, there's no play. That literally tells your brain that it's a bit monotonous, this. So I think you need that play. And
I spoke about this again with like Pete on the podcast. I said, I think I've seen that in Amy a little bit as well. And it doesn't just, there's not just a men's loneliness crisis. I think there's a bit of a women's loneliness crisis amongst that as well, where women get into this trap of being the main child bearer, the main parent in the relationship, and all of a sudden they're cutting off their friends and not seeing their people as much. And I spoke about on the podcast with Pete, like we're going through this situation and like, you know, transitioning our family unit and relationship, where I'm trying to encourage Amy to go out and do more things. And every Sunday this year so far, granted there's only been 2 Sundays, I've taken Amy out, Harlow out on a Sunday morning, and I've said, you go and do what you need to do. She does. She catches up on work. She might go and do her hair. She might go out and take Walter for a walk. Just them two, and she loves it. And I've seen a change in her, which has been really nice. Like she got in bed the other day and she was like, Ryan, I feel so much less stressed. Because she's not actually been out and spoken to any of her mates specifically and met up with them. I'm sure she would at some point, but just her having a little bit of time to herself in the week. And she goes, she did say to me, like, I feel a little bit left out sometimes because you're going and doing quite fun things on a Sunday morning, Carla. I was like, well, you can come with us at some point.
Yeah.
But I did say, like, I'm going to keep this going. Some weeks I want you to join us, some weeks I want you to have it by yourself. But you need that time to be like, right, if I'm going to do anything in my week, it's something for me. I know I've got 2-3 hours on a Sunday morning where Ryan takes Harlow out and I've got it to myself. I think it works vice versa. If you've got a partner and you're a bloke and she's got a few things going on, and it's maybe sometimes it can get like in a relationship, it can get quite one-sided, where one person seems to be having all the fun, the other one's like taking care of family at home. You need to have that conversation, sit everyone down and say, right, diary's out, scheduling, planning, let's have time for me, time for you, who's looking after who, what, where, why. And when the kids are involved, sometimes I've got parents that I coach who, you know, they're both into the gym, and one will get back from work, he'll go straight to the gym, and then when he gets back, he takes the kids. So while he's at the gym, the missus feeds them. When they get back, it's like a tag team. One tags in, one tags out.
Yeah.
One person puts them to bed, the other one goes to the gym, and then they get like an hour in the afternoon. Sometimes it's as hectic as that. You finish work, you're straight into cooking food for the tea, you're to the gym, and then you're back. It's got to be military planned sometimes in your week to make all these things fit. But again, planning and prepping, planning time that's actively like getting yourself out of that loneliness place that you're in.
And I think that requires a lot of communication. Like, this is linked, so bear with me. It's a bit of, I'm going around the houses a bit. Did you watch Gavin and Stacey?
Not regularly, but I did watch the Christmas one, and I really enjoyed it. It was good.
The recent one this year?
Yeah.
Well, last year. Sonia, I know women like Sonia who Smithy were going to marry.
Right, okay. Yeah,
all right.
Yeah.
Now, the Sonia archetype, I'm not saying this is every woman before I get cancelled. I'm never, ever, ever saying that. But there are certain Sonias in the world who hold their other half back, and they want them to be compliant, and they want them to... That is tough. Like, standing up to that, maybe you feel like you're punching a little bit, and you might think, I need to do everything she says because I'm lucky to have her. And you think, hang on, mate. Like, are you happy with this?
Yeah.
And I think sometimes having that chat with your mate and, I don't know, not interfering in the relationship, but giving them the platform to talk and asking them quite clinical questions of, you know, she's a bit of a Sonia. I don't know. It's a weird one.
Putting a funny spin in it, but also having the confidence to highlight that in a friend. And I I asked you a question before the podcast, and I'm not going to repeat it, but I asked you something because I've noticed something in the way you were talking about a certain situation and topic recently, where I noticed and I said, are you okay with that? Where's your head at with that? And I didn't ask it straight away. No. I had to be sure and like that was the kind of message I was receiving from you. But if you've been receiving that similar message from a friend about their partner or about a situation, you can see they're getting lonely. Like, for example, I always think about Ollie Newton when he came on and his manager pulled him aside and said, Ollie, we can see something's not right in you. Like, everyone sees it in the office. What's going on? His manager didn't have to do that. He could have gone swept under the carpet, but from human being to human being, from mate to mate, if you see someone in that situation, help them out, for fuck's sake. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, it's a duty of being a mate. It's a duty of being a bloke. It's just a lovely thing to do, to kind of approach your mate and say, I think you're struggling. Like, let's go and do some stuff. Take some time out of your week. Have a chat with your missus. I've got a mate who's struggling. I really think I want to spend more time with him. Go and help him out.
That's a really cool transition to his last question that we got, which is there anything that we're struggling with personally, and what are we doing to overcome it? I don't mind answering this first, because I feel like
you mentioned you had something like that you wanted to highlight on this one, but I've got a couple of things. Go on.
So for me, we are currently house hunting. We have been for about a year, and I feel like as life is on hold, and that is hard, and people will have probably seen a change in me because I'm getting my head down, I'm doing certain things. There's certain actions that I can't take on a personal level and a business level because number one, transparently, we need, obviously, you know how the self-employed life is, you need proof of earnings, etc. There's certain things that I just can't do. So I'm having to press pause and just waiting, and it feels like life is at a little bit, it's moving at a slower pace than what I want.
I totally relate to that. Like, I've had moments in my life, exactly the same thing. We've got a wedding I'm getting married next year, and there's certain, like, just even purchases, like things you don't want to go too OTT with, because you know you've got a big wedding coming up and there's a lot of bills on the horizon of things that need paying off before the wedding. So you're kind of like in this limbo stage where maybe like once the wedding's done, you're then like, right, okay, we've got a new lease to go on.
And it's knowing what you can control, and like, are you going to regret it? Like, if you feel like you're jumping into something. Yeah. Like, people have said to us, like, why don't you put your house on the market? But then I'll feel pressured to making a decision. Whereas now we're in control. Like, put bluntly, our house will sell. It's going to be an amazing, like, first time place for somebody. So the demand's there.
Yeah.
Finding what we want is hard, and it's knowing that what we're willing to compromise on. Ted's going to school. We don't know where he's going to go to school. We don't find out till April. So there's a lot of uncertainty that just is, quite frankly, mate, a pain in the arse. Yeah. And I can feel my life just slowly, like, not grinding to a halt, but it's just not at the pace that I'm used to. That's hard.
Yeah, I sympathise with that. I don't know what you mean. Difficult.
Which, it's a bit like, oh, you know, boo-hoo, mate. Like, oh, you know, you're not doing what you want to do. But it's actually a big thing for me. Yeah. And people will have seen a change in me, because it's, I don't know. Best way I can describe it is,
yeah, just
that's it. Just like, come on. But what about you, mate? Anything that's on your mind?
What's on my mind? I guess at the moment, performance. The original question was what are some things that we're struggling with.
Yeah.
What am I struggling with? I think maybe I mentioned this in Pete's episode, where I was maybe more open than I was anticipating, but I highlighted the fact that I probably don't outsource my things. I like to take things on a lot myself and do a lot of things myself, to my own detriment, I think.
Which I think is interesting, because how much you reference Richard Branson and how much you admire him.
Yeah, I know. Which is hard, because I do try and think about him in those moments, and he's a big idol of mine. I love Richard Branson. I think he's great, but his biggest asset was how he could delegate and handle and give out jobs. Because when you can do that, you can technically grow everything faster. You 10x everything. We know it from being coaches, right? Yeah. When someone comes to you and they've been like, I've been training for 2 years, spinning the wheels, they're with you for 3 months, and they make like more progress in 3 months than they have done in 2 years. You know how much of an asset you are to their lives and their progress. I just struggle sometimes to kind of let go of the reins sometimes. I think it's my biggest weakness as a person. It's good something I battle with. Yeah,
it's really good to acknowledge it, and I think it's sort of, I don't know, for me, I think I've told you this before, I love writing, and I find it really therapeutic. It's a way for me to get things out of my head. Sometimes it can be work-based, but my brain works in stories, and I really want to find a way to do something with that, and I don't know how. So that's probably the biggest struggle for me right now, because I'm sort of seeing, how can I help more people, or how can I leave something, it's going to sound really deep now, how do I leave something for Ted, where it's like, oh, my dad did that. That, cause I'd still,
a proud moment.
Yeah, because I still do it now, where like I'll drive past walls that my dad built, and I know he built them because that's what brickies do. If you're in a car with a brickie, they go, I built that.
Really?
I remember like most things,
Wow.
yeah, all over Sheffield, like just, I built that. Yeah, and I still remember stuff, and it's nice to sort of look and go, it's my dad's, blood, sweat, and tears in that.
Yeah.
So
That is really nice.
There's
Memories of him all of the city.
There's actually a house right on the corner of where I grew up, and it looks like a doll's house. It's a gorgeous house, and my dad built that with the bloke who owned it, and it's amazing. And every time I drive past it, I just beam. We're like, that is a full house that my dad just he built that,
Put his heart into.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Like, what skill.
I can see why that would drive you to be like, right, I want to leave something for Ted. So talking about the writing there, you can do writing for like posts, for people will employ you, like big major fitness writing companies, for their algorithms. They're constantly looking for writers to write articles. So maybe you should look into that. That might be something to kind of go and do.
I'm always open to stuff, because I love that side of things. And
I had a mate who was another coach, and he had a blog that he was trying to get to the top of Google, and he would write these posts 2 or 3 times a week. And I think someone who was a writer stumbled across his blog and said, I know you're writing these off a whim, but I really like them. I think they're great. I think they're fantastically informative. I think you've got a great style of writing. Would you be up for writing some posts for us? And I think he was paying him like $1,000 a week at one point for like 2 or 3 articles for his page. And they obviously got a lot of advertising money for it and stuff, but they were constantly looking for people in the health and fitness space to sit down and be writers for their sites. So
I think it's probably been the start of this year that's highlighted it for me, because I love, I did something at the start of the year called the Health Reset, and like I did it a couple of years ago, and it were a nice way, like 14 days, just 2 weeks worth of emails, get one every day, and it's a way to sort of start habit stacking. And I was shocked how much I actually enjoyed revamping it. And there's new information that's come out, so I tweaked it, and I thought, this is ace. Like I could do this a lot. I feel like I'm really helping people, and it's coming away from what you can do for people just in person. So I'm really pontificating out loud now, but it's how can you impact people's lives away from the gym? That's always been a huge focus of mine.
I think that's a really nice way to end. Anything else you want to add to the Q&A?
No, just to really encourage people to keep sending these things, because yes, we're doing this prompted, like we've had a message come through whilst we've been recording about discussing peptides, which we're not going to do right now. But it's just little things like that. We want to know what people are curious about, what you're struggling with.
We want to answer your questions, and don't ever think that it's too kind of like futile for us to discuss. The more futile, the better, to be honest. I mean, sometimes we love like little random offshoot questions that are just actually might be things that we've thought about in the past, have dealt with other clients and people we know. So we'd love to hear any questions just randomly. If you ask us questions, we may answer them there and then, or we may kind of decide to discuss it in a podcast. But we're the value people. We want to provide you with much information and resources as possible. So hit us up, basically. Send us your questions.
And if we feel like we can't help, odds are that we're going to source someone who can. Like, we've put some irons in the fire for January, February time to get some really cool people on who we honestly think will be really helpful.
And just touching on that, we've got some really cool guests lined up, some people that are going to come in the next few weeks and months. So if you could rate, review, and actually subscribe as well, because that'll mean you get the latest episode sent to your phone, so you won't miss any of the kind of new guests we've got coming on.
100%. Yeah, well put, mate.
Guys, thank you for joining us on the Fit Dads podcast. We'll see you in the next one.
See you soon. Cheers, mate.
Awesome.
Appreciate that.
Bang on.